Our meetings are not usually, nobody's really waiting at home to watch our meetings. All right, so I think that is streaming and so it's recording. All right, you're all on. I feel like we should turn the screen around or turn the owl around and do an introduction for everybody. But we can't see your face. That's the problem. I'm going to turn you around.
That works.
It's gonna, your talk, the owl should go to you.
Yeah.
And then you'll see.
Yeah, the owl will train on voice.
There. And it's always nice to see his face.
Have the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I do. And it is up on the screen.
Okay.
So I do have it for you. Dawn, I think I sent you the agenda in the meeting minutes, just so you have them.
Yeah, I have them.
Agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here are the meeting minutes from the last meeting, which are up for approval.
Thank you. We'll do those after.
Yep.
All right, so I will start. My name is Tom Peters. I'm the chairman of the board here for the town of Canton, for the planning board. And then to my left is Brad. You already know Brian. And then who you can't see on the other side is Diane Ray. So I think what I'm gonna do first I'll call the meeting to order at 6:10. And then we'll get right to the sewer ordinance documents.
I'd like to just say hello to Alex. Nice to meet you. We were so desperate to have an attorney. Thank you for taking us on.
Yeah, no, happy to be here. Happy to be meeting all of you virtually. I'm hoping I'll meet you all in person at some point. It's nice to be here tonight.
So where are your home offices, or where are the central offices for your?
Yeah, so our central office is in Portland, but we represent communities all over the state. Better than 90% of the school districts in the state, and then a whole range of municipalities all across the state. So we travel a fair amount. And I actually am familiar with your neck of the woods. I went to school in Farmington for undergrad. So I spent quite a bit of time up there. Beautiful country. Little cold in the winter, but you get some great skiing. So it kind of works out.
So I'm a beaver also, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and skiing was amazing. So yeah, that was one of the reasons why I went there and got college credit to go hang out at Sugarloaf. It was great.
Yeah, you really can't beat it.
No. All right.
Can I just ask a quick
Yeah.
process question? First, we have the cemetery ordinance with Alex's feedback, which we're going to go through tonight. But also we had sent the sewer ordinance and the revisions to that. Can I just ask kind of where that is in the queue?
Yeah, so I talked with Brian Keene, the select board chair, about this a little bit. You have sent me the, I think, revised version of the sewer ordinance as well as the original version. And
with the markups.
Yeah, so that was part of my question is the version that I got didn't have the markups. So I'll follow up and see if I can get that from you. But the first piece I want to see is sort of how things obviously have changed from the original. And then as we look through that piece, get a sense of what the scope of the project for you guys is. Generally speaking, sewer ordinances in general tend to be relatively complicated, although yours, for Canton, the language is significantly less. So I should be able to take a look at that, hopefully once I get the markups, and give you some feedback on a relatively expedited basis. And then we can sort of see if there are larger questions.
Okay, so those markups were provided several days ago. You should have had them by now.
So those have been sent on, Diane.
Okay.
I have taken care of that. They're all sent forward at this point, so we will.
You just did them on your phone? Thanks. Cool.
No, they were.
Yeah, you said you sent them a while ago, so I'm just.
They were sent on, so we'll.
All right, let's see where they are. Because that's been sitting since last fall. We're just anxious to get these moving.
Yep, no, I understand.
So I don't think you can see the screen, but we have your edited copy up on the
Okay.
screen. For people
Perfect.
to run through.
Sure. So what I think will sort of be helpful is I can kind of run down through the edits sort of section by section, just give you my thoughts on why the changes were made. I've got a couple of questions. You guys can sort of be interactive as we go through that. And then if there are any larger questions, we can kind of deal with those at the end. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So the first section, you can see I just made some small changes in changing it from definitions to town cemeteries. I did have one question, which is just to confirm that this is an accurate list of your town cemeteries as of now, assuming that's correct.
Well, it was correct when it was written.
Okay.
We haven't
So-
added or taken any away since then.
Okay, perfect. Moving on then to the new section 4. What I've done here is you made out obviously a number of references to the cemetery sexton in other portions of the ordinance. So here we have a new section that lays out the position, including a term of office, the ability of the select board to appoint them, a rough smattering of their duties that's not completely inclusive, and sort of lays out what they do. You tend to see this in a lot of other towns. So that's the reason that I put it in here. Obviously, if you have changes you want to make to this section or tweaks to it, more than happy to accommodate those. The other piece that goes along with that is a lot of towns will have a cemetery committee that is sort of an informal body that meets with the cemetery sexton, helps to resolve issues, and then reports up to the select board for dealing with those matters. Again, I didn't add that to this ordinance because it's not clear that you necessarily need it, but that is just that's just something that's out there if the town has interest. Does anybody have any questions about this section, or can I just sort of move on?
Nope,
I don't
move
have-
on.
I don't have any.
Perfectly clear.
Perfect. Hours of operation, this was just a minor rewording. I don't think this changes the substance. The first piece is I just renamed this rather than restricted activities, prohibited activities. I understand that every town has a different character. So when I included C, D, and E, that's just because, again, these are restrictions we see in a lot of other towns, but I appreciate that, the local character of Canton, these activities may be perfectly fine. So those are, again, suggestions of the kinds of things that sometimes get banned in other towns, but you may feel differently.
Cool.
In terms of the cost of burial plots, this was just sort of reordering slightly, just for clarification. Nothing major there. Moving on to the new section 8. What we've done here is really just added some clarifying language. To be clear that all the excavations need to be done by a licensed excavator, and then B, sort of restating your prohibition on anybody opening or closing their own grave, which is obviously makes sense. I've also changed it down below to clarify that the select board will set the pricing schedule for the relevant activities. Again, what we typically would see is the sexton either themselves or working with the cemetery committee making recommendations up to the select board, and then the select board ratifying those. And we do that just to avoid any question of whether the fees are properly set. There's sometimes a question as to whether the sexton has the ability to establish those fees on their own. So most towns will just move it up to the select board to resolve that. For section 9, I actually had a question for you guys that you may be able to answer. I believe this section had been removed in the prior draft ordinance, but it did seem like it was a useful section. So I restored it and then just added in a sort of a question as to why it had been removed and what the sort of consideration behind it was.
Yeah, I have to go back and look. It may have just been a typing error.
Okay.
But we'll see.
My quick reaction, again, I'm familiar with the sort of legal requirements, not the the details of cemetery policy, but it seemed like it would make sense for the cemetery sexton to have some authority over the placement of the gravestones. But again, I'll defer to your expertise on that. In section 10, again, we largely just have a restating of the record keeping responsibilities. I think this clarifies that the responsibility, and then that there should be an annual copy of these records sent to the town clerk. Out of a curiosity, and we'll talk about this a little bit more further down, but is this something that, to your knowledge, is actually actively being done by the town, or is this sort of aspirational, if that makes sense?
Keeping the record keeping?
Yes. Is this being updated annually and being filed with the town clerk and that sort of thing?
Yes, so anytime the sexton buries anybody or opens a grave or anything like that, he turns in the relative paperwork usually within the next week.
Okay,
to 2
perfect.
weeks.
Yeah, I asked that because I did have an experience in one town where they had a similar provision, but the cemetery sexton was not turning any of those records over to the town office or the clerk. They were just keeping them all themselves. And so I just want to make sure, to the extent that we're putting out, requirements in the ordinance, that we're actually following through with them.
So I have a question. I've asked to see a map of the cemeteries, like who's buried where, and nobody seems to have that.
Yeah, so that's the kind of thing that we're talking about. If we don't, you probably should have a map. And there might make sense to create one if you don't have one, and then just making sure that that's being filed and kept on record.
So the 2 main cemeteries are, both the maps for both of those cemeteries are in the town office.
Okay.
The older outlying cemeteries, there are sparse documentation for those.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
And most of that's been put together by people that have been working on ancestry stuff and things like that. But the largest 2 cemeteries that are still active do have active maps here in the town office.
The outlying cemeteries, were they historically private cemeteries that the town took over, or have these all been town cemeteries really since the get-go? Do you know?
I think they're a mix, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a majority that were owned by the town or maintained by the town. Then there are a couple private ones that are kind of lumped in.
Okay. One issue that comes up in other towns is just a question of maintenance of private cemeteries, the expending of public funds on maintaining the private cemeteries. And then there are often ways around that, so it's not necessarily a huge problem, but it may be helpful to identify, to the extent which of these are actual town cemeteries versus which are private cemeteries that the town has some sort of responsibility for upkeep. Based on this ordinance, I was just under the impression that these were all town cemeteries. If that's not the case, we may want to do a little bit of work identifying which are town cemeteries and which are private cemeteries that the town is involved in doing upkeep for, if that makes sense.
I just have a question. Actually, I might have even had this discussion with the chairman of the select board, as well as one of my colleagues who lives in this neighborhood of the town. Of the Canton Point Cemetery, isn't there like an independent group that manages it? What's that relationship look like?
That's one of the hard ones. That cemetery, it technically is a private cemetery, but the town maintains it. I shouldn't say private. It's a town cemetery specifically for those on Canton Point, is the way it was started. And it's always just been that somebody on Canton Point is the one who keeps document of where people are buried and what plots are open and things like that. But it does fall under the town maintained list, I guess is the way I should say it. The town takes care of there's a couple reserve accounts that are there for, well, I shouldn't say reserve, for perpetual care accounts that have been set up for people that have passed away and left money to like take care of their plot or things like that, and that money is all taken care of by the town. Yeah.
Okay,
So
good.
does,
Well, that's positive because that puts you ahead of a lot of towns where the record keeping of sort of those private cemeteries that end up falling over under town control tends to be pretty spotty. So that's good.
so currently, all of these are under town meetings, correct?
I believe, well, technically, yes, but one of those we haven't touched in a long, long time. And then there's one more not listed on there, I believe, because there's one, I'm just trying to. Yeah, the one that's up on Canton Mountain is not on that list. I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, though.
No, I don't think, well, Robin didn't know it either.
There should be, I think, when we get there, 2, 4, 6, 7. There should be 14, we only got 13.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure the name of it, but it's up on Canton Mountain, the one that I haven't been to yet, but.
okay,
The Thorn Mountain is one that I've been in, but we haven't maintained it at this point. 'Cause we
Okay,
can't get to it.
so we'll find the names of the more. Mhm.
Oh,
Okay, so that's sort of the question of just clarifying the status of those cemeteries going forward. Section 11, again, all I did here was remove the due to instability and deterioration posing a hazard. I think you're fine just prohibiting them. You don't necessarily need to provide a specific reason here. Certainly can if you want to, but I don't think that's necessary. Again, with adornment of grave sites, this is largely just rewording kind of what was already here. Again, I've removed the sort of very specific description with a slightly more open-ended one. The standard being impacting the operation of the cemetery or otherwise disrupting public use of the cemetery. I like that because it's a little more open-ended and gives you a little more discretion as to the removal of vegetation. The winter decorations, again, just a slight rewording. Those dates can be adjusted if you think they need to be. But those are roughly the kind of dates we see in other towns. Section 13, section 14. Section 14, I just deleted this sentence because I don't think it's necessary. It's perfectly fine in communications and other documents to reference main statute as needed. You don't need that in the ordinance. Section 15, this is a relatively large change, but I think it's useful. I don't imagine that it's likely that you're going to get into a lot of enforcement matters related to your cemetery ordinance. But if you do, this creates a very clear path for enforcement. It gives you the ability to impose fines and then seek to have them enforced through a civil action in the main district court. That's a pretty common provision that we see in other ordinances. I have removed the appeal language that you had previously, sending it to the Board of Appeals. My thinking there, and again, we can sort of do what you want. My thinking is that those are not the kinds of things that typically would go to a Board of Appeals for review, number one. And number two, that right of appeal is essentially always available to someone, particularly given now that enforcement is going to the district court. That right of appeal, the ability to get into court and have somebody take a look at whatever action the town has taken, is always available through an ADB appeal. So I don't think we need to provide another layer by going to a Board of Appeals, particularly given how unlikely it is that we're going to have a significant amount of enforcement under this ordinance. This is just sort of a simplified process that gets us into court quickly, which is often the best place to resolve, appeals of this kind. And then the final section 16 is just a standard severability provision. If any different portion of this ordinance is found to be unconstitutional for whatever reason, it doesn't necessarily sink the entire ordinance itself. So that's the kind of quick rundown. Didn't know if you guys have any questions that you'd like to run through, any edits you'd like to make. Happy to sort of talk that through if you have any.
I don't think so. I thought they were pretty clear.
Okay.
And the only additional we'll have to wait for is we'll figure out the actual name of the cemetery on Canton Mountain.
Yeah, so send me, once you have an updated list, feel free to send that to me. What I can do is essentially finalize this and create a clean copy for you to consider at town meeting if you decide to go forward and pass the amendments. And if there's any other questions or anything that people have in the meantime, happy to address them either here or in the future.
So Alex, typically you just would accept changes, erase your comments and do whatever else we need to do. I don't think you need to necessarily do that for us. That
Okay.
feels like excessive support.
Yeah.
We need to type on our behalf, we're good.
Yeah, no, the only reason I often suggest that is just if you do want to make further changes, sometimes in the process of accepting my changes, people will think, oh, I'll make this change or I'll make that change. It's nice to have, if you do want to make additional changes, it's always great to have, your lawyer take a final look, make sure that nothing has changed that impacts anything.
I have a question.
Sure.
Number 9, section 9. Are you just eliminating that section?
No, he's asking us to put it in.
Oh,
And we think it may have been accidentally eliminated, because I'm sure it was in an earlier version.
Yes,
Oh,
the new section 9, what had been section 8.
So he just put it back in.
okay, because mine's all aligned out. That's the only reason I asked.
Right.
Okay, so this is okay in. Okay,
In the revised
Yeah.
AVP reviewed, that's got the additional changes in it.
okay, I don't know.
He put it back in. That's the way it's in your email.
Yeah, I just sent, okay, got it.
Mr. Chairman, I have some questions. Well, so the section describing the cemetery sexton and spelling out his 3-year term, that's new, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, there's a lot of sort of policy in there, so feel free if there are changes you want to make, we can certainly make changes to that.
Do we appoint our sexton right now for 3 years?
1 year. Currently on a yearly term.
And the other question that I had was, when, in the part about the glass bottles and alcoholic beverages. From what I was
Could be
seeing
an
right
activity.
there, it seems like it inadvertently is allowing those where I think the intent was to prohibit them.
So Brad, where is that section again? Prohibited activities?
It's
Oh, yeah.
the glass
Yeah.
bottles and alcohol
I
beverages are,
read that too, and I had to reread it a couple.
Oh, it should
now
say,
it's-
it's they are prohibited with.
Oh, I see I see what you're saying. Yep, we can just remove the not, are prohibited.
then I did
Anything else?
a Google search, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
about Canton Cemetery on Canton Mountain to see what it, how it's called, and I see that the Canton Maine Historical Society lists it as Canton Mountain Cemetery, AKA Canton Hill Cemetery. And I hope that's correct, the name, is it the name?
That's the one that we've never found.
It's Canton Mountain, it's by word of mouth, we know there's one there. But there's no stones been found or anything, yes. But the Canton Hill, I've never heard it called that,
I have,
you?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, there was some talk around it being Canton Hill or, the other thing that they were, when they first started looking for it was if it was somehow tied into Town Farm. But it wasn't, it was on, right?
Yeah.
It may be that we just need to leave that one off for now
Yeah.
too, I mean,
Cause it's, and
we
it's,
have, none
all-
of us have seen it yet.
no,
so-
and it's landlocked,
Right,
so
it's landlocked through private land. so
Yes.
It's not like we're,
I would leave that,
I think that's why we left it off the first time.
yeah, I would.
Okay, so we have 13. The original list stands, okay. Don, anything else that you see?
No, I didn't. No, thank you.
All right. Very cool. Any other questions?
I don't have any. I saw that, well, you have one, the sexton we currently do on a year-to-year basis.
Right,
Should,
I just changed that to 1 year.
but should we do it for more than 1 year? I don't know who is the current sexton.
Larry Wright, he's been it for a number of years, I know.
He's been there since the year after I started. So he's been here since 2014-ish.
I know he was when I came back.
Because Don Cummings was doing it when I first started, and then when he got done on the highway crew, he got done as sexton as well, and that's when Larry took over.
Because I know Todd Piper has, Bill Bryant did it.
Piper didn't do ours though.
He's done something.
Well, I think he covered. I think he covered in between,
People.
yeah, but I don't, yeah. I mean, we can,
It was just a thought, we don't have
yeah,
to do
I
it.
don't see any
just-
issue with changing it to 3 years, I'm okay with that.
I've seen it done in towns both ways. Some towns do it annually. Some towns do it in 2 or 3 year terms. The only advantage of having a longer term is really for planning purposes. You sort of have somebody locked in for a period of time as opposed to having it come again, every year. Flip side is, I suppose, if you have problems, it's easier to, let somebody go at the end of a 1 year term as opposed to 3. But it's pluses and minuses.
If
Well,
there's problems, they can go anywhere.
I believe when we first started with him, it was on a 3 year term basis. And then we had a change in town clerks who preferred appointments being done yearly for everything. And all of our positions that used to be multi-year appointments turned into a single year appointment instead. So I don't have an issue going back to multi-year. We have enough paperwork to do yearly that. Multi-year.
All right. 3 years, good.
So it's staying a year or going to 3 years?
I went to 3 years. 3 years.
Okay.
But I think the only other thing I can do is add the history, like the last edits we've had, the dates of the edits kind of thing. And
Yeah, I mean, if you have it, it's always great to be able to explain when it's been edited, but not every town does.
Yeah, I'll put that in and we'll make that get to the town office and be ready to go. Looks good.
Okay, great. Is there anything else I can help you guys with or talk to you about, or you all set?
I think we're good.
Yeah, I am all set.
All right. Great to meet you guys. Have a wonderful evening and look forward to working with you in the future.
Perfect.
you.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks,
Have a
Alex.
good night.
Last piece and we all set to go. Okay. Back to the agenda. Robin, I have an agenda before you. Come on up to the table, girl. Let me see.
I can turn the lights back. Maybe. I don't. No, I gotta do that.
We have to look, select everyone.
And I would send you anything because I got, what I was doing was taking longer.
Usually get
Monday,
over 25 minutes.
Thursday service.
Yeah. Let's just say, yeah.
It's probably a minute.
Random.
All right, so we can go over last meeting's minutes. I was not present, so
Yeah, we're gonna put a note that said he was really, really, really late. Yeah.
I was really
Because he
late.
texted me, I'll be late. I'm like, that's a no-show. That's not late.
I had all intentions to be here by like 6:15. And I had to go to Auburn, and then my wife had been messaging this guy. In New Hampshire about a pair of skis that she wanted. And the guy finally like responded back and we could coordinate, and I'm like, I'm in Auburn, so I can go now. So I drove to Salem, New Hampshire to buy a pair of skis. It was a good deal, but
Any other, any changes in the meeting minutes on April 3rd?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Good. All those in favor? Good. On to today.
Well, that was our biggest item at the moment.
What was that?
That was our biggest item.
Yeah.
At the moment. Just a reminder, in May, Brad volunteered to be take notes May 15th, because I'll be out of town.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
I also the cluster housing ordinance, we finished our run through of it last week. And I need to get that just put together and sent out to you guys, so I'll do that this week, so we can have it to review at our next meeting.
Okay.
So since I came in on the tail end, did anything else, did anything get changed on the cemetery ordinance?
Yes, a few things, and it was, you have a copy of his markup with all the changes in it.
Okay,
It's in your email
okay.
twice, so you should have it.
We do.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I heard my phone go off. Ding.
So, and then Kathy put it, said she put a notice in the paper for May 1st to review the cemetery ordinance as a public hearing, as a requirement before we go to town meeting. So that should be all set, so we're still planning to do that at the beginning of our next meeting before our regular meeting.
Okay.
Cool, I'm just going through the old business real quick, because you weren't here last week.
No.
We have, I've almost done putting together all the chapters that we have, that as far as people got into one document, so we can now see where we really are in the comp plan. I think we're like 90% done on the inventory part. I will get that. We've agreed that we're not gonna be ready for town meeting clearly, so that would be a fall thing, but we'd like to have the baseline document pretty well done before town meeting, so that we can start working on the so what and the action steps part of the comp plan.
So it sounds, so Mr. Chairman, it sounds like, if we need to do edits, we should do this in the new document. Is that correct? Meaning we should go into the folder and then look for the consolidated one
Yeah, it's
now.
not there. It's not in that shared Google Doc yet.
Oh,
the Google
okay.
Sheet. It's not in that folder yet.
Okay,
And once you keep taking out a word and save it into Google Docs, and then you try to download it back again, it messes up a lot of the formatting.
Okay.
So I'll send it to you separately.
okay,
And I know you still have your chapter on agriculture that you're working on.
yes.
I've got whatever's on that shared drive as your latest. If
Yeah.
you want to finish uploading anything you've got as your latest, I'll take that and put that into the total doc.
Okay, so the best practice would be to, if one's gonna do the edit, do that chapter separate and then have it merge in, and it's less disruptive that way to the overall formatting, is that right?
I'm gonna take whatever you have now and put that in. So now we have a point in time document.
Right,
And then we can look at that together and decide if we want to put that back as a one big, I think it was too big for. Originally, it had pictures and everything else in it, and that was part of the problem, because it had photos going back and forth, and that messed up everything. So we saved a copy without the photos, but I want to give everybody the latest kind of, because people have been working in fractions, and now there's like, nobody really knows what the whole thing looks like. And I think we need to have one document with everything close together. And then if we still need to do edits, we could edit separately as
okay,
needed.
got it, okay, sounds good.
Okay, all right. So if you can put into the shared doc, whatever you have for your section. If there's any more updates, and I've got what's there now, is that,
Well, that's the latest.
okay, cool.
But I will certainly keep you updated, otherwise.
Very good. I didn't stop in the town office to see if there's any other permits that need review, but I doubt it. We can go take a quick look if we wanted to. Has our CEO, Brian, decided, I know he was here by the grace of God, because he was really Hartford and was just helping us out, but I saw that we're hiring.
Our CEO has resigned, and I will read his letter at our meeting next week, but he has resigned, essentially he's retiring.
Yeah.
And that's.
He's
he
retiring.
came out of retirement to help us and a few other towns out, and he's decided that he wants to completely retire, so. We have posted the position along with a couple surrounding towns, I know we have one person that has already expressed interest in the position. And there is another we are talking to a surrounding town about the possibility of contracting with somebody that they're already using as well. So there are a couple prospects out there.
Good.
Hopefully we'll hear more
Yeah, good.
in the next week or so.
Anything else? It's gonna be a short meeting. After cluster housing, which is, that will go out this week, and maybe at our next meeting, we can decide if we think it's ready to go to select board for review.
Okay.
What do we want to take on next?
All of them.
If we go to our list of ordinances,
So now-
which does now appear on your screen. We have, and some of these have been taken off our plate. I think we said automobile graveyard ordinance, has not been updated for a while. I think that may be the only one left.
2018.
Isn't that the one that just says we go by the state laws though? I thought the last time we redid that one, we basically scrapped the town one and just said, we're going by state law.
They might have.
I think that's the way it ended the town meeting for that one, I believe.
That looks
Yeah,
very
to adopt
familiar to the
state regulations.
statutory formatting.
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm pretty sure that was discussed at town meeting that year and.
This one has no signatures, no signatures. God.
Maybe this seems like
Let's
the
see, this
number.
one,
is
this was
statutory.
18.
So
Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure it was
State.
completely thrown out and started over. I have to go back and look at the town meeting warrant for that year, but I'm pretty sure that's what was on.
So we'll just try to find one with signatures. We have nothing with signatures in our records. This was 18. Okay. Put it down.
As far as updating ordinances, one thing that I've mentioned before is that if the town attorney is part of a large law firm with the access to the best legal research tool, one thing that he can do is set up alerts for every single statutory reference that we have, so that should something pop up in one of our ordinances, should something pop up in a change of the state law that we're referencing in our ordinances, he can, just keep up to date on
Yeah,
that.
we get notification on it. Yeah.
So,
Might be worth asking him about that. Now, he took out the references in the cemetery ordinance, where we had a state statute referenced in the ordinance itself. One of his edits was to take that out. He made a general.
I can see
He
that.
made a general statement about follow state ordinances, but it didn't list the specific, because we do spend an inordinate amount of time updating those.
Yeah.
ordinances.
Because if the state changes, deletes it, this and that screws this up.
The comment he made the first time that he and I talked about the cemetery one was, he said the reason that he would pull, and it wouldn't just be that ordinance, pretty much any ordinance, his recommendation is unless there's a specific reason to cite a specific law citation, he doesn't recommend doing it because you're constantly going through and editing and changing and worrying about what's been updated, what hasn't. Excuse me, whereas if you can hit it with a general comment of, follow state laws or regulations or whatever, then that works. He said, but obviously there are gonna be those times that you can't and you have to cite certain things.
Yeah.
But he said, at least for that one, we can get by without it. Like I say, obviously there are gonna be some others where we have to be a little more detailed and.
Well, and does an attorney have to set those up, Brad, or is that something that we could do ourselves?
we could do it ourselves. The only logistical challenge, of course, would be the platform that we would be employing to do that. In other words, I'm not so sure if it would be worth the town subscribing to, let's say, LexisNexis to West Bluff, nobody's using it, you know?
Right.
So what, but our attorney must have, our attorney must have that tool anyway. The only downside I can think of is perhaps maybe some unsolicited, legal work. In other words, he might say, oh, by the way, this change has happened. Now, if the town's okay with that and they want to hear about the changes in real time as they're happening, that's fine, but certainly I don't know, you know, what the cap is for his services, fine, you know, what the, how much the town has
As
set
little as
aside.
possible.
Yeah,
Right.
So,
The,
Not
I
as much
know
as I've spent in the last 2 weeks, I can tell you that.
AvCog sends, like AvCog,
oh, yikes.
AvCog may do some of that for free too, because I know I get alerts from AvCog when certain laws have changed that reflect certain things.
Right,
We could ask them what kind of notices they can provide for free.
sure,
Let's
that's
see.
great.
And I can ask Alex, like I said, I'll be talking with him again tomorrow, I'm sure, so, and if not, I know I am next week, so I can. Ask if there's if they have the ability to do that, and if so, what that would, if it would cost us anything additional, or what we'd be looking at.
I was looking through in our Google Drive with all of our ordinances in them. There are folders with nothing in them, so I don't know if we had an ordinance and we removed it. One of them is local food and maybe community.
food safe.
So I think we uploaded a ton of them all at one time, and I
Yeah.
don't know that they all went.
Okay.
So I can go to those empty folders and see what's in there, and if they're empty, we can upload those. We have those, the food resilience.
That might be an interesting one for us to take a look at in light of changes about, I just wanna say, wasn't there?
Well, this was done in
That's very
in
recent.
19,
Yeah, that's a
so
very
okay.
recent one,
six
So
years.
maybe it coincided with all the changes that were happening, yeah,
because
okay.
that was a new one that was put in specifically for a couple of, I don't know, there's a new law or new something, you have to.
Oh, but I see, but however, it was apparently it was accepted, May 17th.
Which one is this?
This is the food,
Food sovereignty ordinance.
yeah.
Yeah.
Local food and
So you
community
think we should do
self-governance.
that one, or we're fine with doing it?
Well, I think we could put it on there, format it, get it formatted so that they all are the same now. I mean, we've got an got a signature page.
Phew.
but-
I'm not,
The up and down, Diane's killing me.
I know the premise behind getting everything formatted the same, but. If it's an active ordinance that's new, does it really need to go through the process and get reformatted and rechecked and put through a town meeting just to change the formatting of how it looks?
Well, it'd be nice to put, I mean, this is all we've got is a PDF copy that's skewed. I mean, it looks like shit. When you put that up on the town website, it just looks like we don't know what we're doing. I think it's unprofessional.
But it's a legal document that the town approved.
Of
Yeah.
course, but I
mean,
think it's
it
our,
was voted,
Is it worth the cost of the lawyer, the paper,
That's my
all
point.
that,
the process that it takes to go through and
just
redo
for
one.
that? I know that's what he's, you
If
know.
we have our ordinances on the website, do they have to be like the actual legal
yeah,
ordinance, or it can't just be like a copy of it, like this was the
No.
ordinance and this is what it said?
nope,
Nope, it's gonna be the actual.
Okay.
with the signature page. And we're still trying to track down some of
Oh.
the signature pages on stuff.
Okay.
So. I feel like that's part of our job. I don't know what it cost him to review the cemetery ordinance.
I don't know yet,
I mean, if we say there's zero
about
changes,
300 to 350 an hour, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
And I know he's done some of it and his secretary's done some of it, but still.
Be sure he's not, that when she, or he or she, whoever the secretary, make sure that he's not billing
At the same
his
time.
rate for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's done most of it, but I know she was involved in a couple of the communications, right? Most of it has been done by him.
okay, we can discuss. Anything else? No agenda, are we done?
I don't have anything.
All right.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Is Dawn still on there?
I am.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We're adjourning, Dawn.
Okay, bye.
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 When do you come home?
21st.
Okay.
I'm flying in on the 21st. So I'll see you all then.
All right.
Although, okay, when's the next meeting? I don't have a calendar in front of me. What's the date?
May 1st, I think.
Yeah, May 1st.
Okay, on that particular one, I will probably do by Zoom also. I'm having my knee replaced on the 29th of April.
Oh, wow, okay.
Okay? So if that's okay, that's what I'll do.
Sure.
Okay,
That works.
Thank
Or we
you.
can all just, we can all do it at your house.
Yeah.
that's fine too. That's no problem. I live real close to you.
All right.
I can just yell out the back window.
I'm
That's
gonna
right.
Stop in the
All right.
live stream.
Okay,
Okay.
bye.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Awesome.
Things in one night, I love it.
So Alex does have the store stuff. I went back and looked, I did send that to him the day you sent it to me,
I know,
that,
I know. I
that
just
was
hate,
done.
I hate shit when it's like, I mean, things get lost in my emails. It's work.
Yeah, no, like I said, that was forwarded on Tuesday when you sent those to me, so.
Yeah, I was hoping we could do a quick run through with that, with him and just showing where stuff is. A lot of notes.
He told me today that he hadn't reviewed it yet, so.
I know, but yeah, it's easy to show him what the documents are and how they're highlighted, so he could save some time. But if he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it. How do I stop YouTube?
Who is the liaison from the select board to us this year?
Right now it's me. Because Michelle's not here, it's me, so, and then we'll redo it in July when maybe the new board takes place, but
Okay.
yeah, in the meantime, it's me.